let me begin with the concept of parallel approvals. Okay, so the definition of parallel approvals, as we saw yesterday, it is limited or it is restricted to the parallelization in AME can be introduced only by using approver groups. Yeah, and parallelization can be introduced by using two of the attributes within an approval group definition, which can be set up at the time of approval group creation. So what we are going to do is, first we are going to define a scenario, and then we are going to use that scenario and enable parallelization. For this purpose, what I have done is I'll take the same existing scenario like yesterday. What we had the same item, and then we had one rule which talked about the item and the organization ID. So I'll just copy these two conditions that we modeled yesterday. Okay, and then yesterday we also defined an approval group for administrative approval in factories, which was comprising of some set of people. Now the only difference is we'll change the scenario a little bit. So here now the same spindles company, the same textile company, spindles department is now procuring material, except that there is one small change. Here we don't have any pre-list or post-list approval. It is that there are three supervisors. Let me just copy the name as well. Three supervisors who can approve this requisition parallelly. So I'll take Gene Waters as the first approver. And then Ivan Andretti, the second approver, and Casey Brown as a third approver. Okay. So what we will try to do is we'll look at the scenario which goes something like this. Whenever the spindles department is buying one of these two items, which we are getting through a custom attribute, where the organization ID is 204, yeah, and naturally there is a quantity also. The quantity is condition was that the item quantity should be greater than 50. Item quantity is greater than 50, then it needs to go to three people. The only exception is that all three must be notified in parallel, and then again we will try to explore what are the various scenarios. What if all three must approve for the requisition to get approved? What if one approval suffices for the approval of the requisition and the remaining two approvers need not approve the requisition? Like in yesterday we discussed the example of the tender committee in the RFQs, and also we discussed about the team leader example in a UN organization where three team leaders are having similar authority. Yeah. So we'll define one approval group with introducing parallelization in it. Part of this theory we have covered yesterday, so I'll directly get into the creation of the approval group. So here we are, yeah, and then I'll click on the create button. Okay, so here we'll enter the name of this group. Let's call it as parallel approval for spindles. And in the description we will mention all the three approvers' name so that we know approval from any one of these three people. Now we'll give it an order number which is 1 because doesn't matter, this order number doesn't matter. Yeah. Now next important aspect is the voting method. So test 1, what we would do is we would try to keep the voting method. Now naturally there are 3 people, so I have to add 3 names in the approval group members, and then they should have the same serial number. That is a prerequisite condition for parallelization, which we saw yesterday. Now here the voting method we'll first test with first responder wins, because that is a little tricky. Any one of these 3 approvers, when they click on the approve button for the requisition, the PR will get automatically approved, and the other 2 approvers will get a notification of just which says it is their notification, which is actually active in their work list, will be automatically cancelled by AME, and there will be a note which says that this action has already been taken by another approver. Yeah. So I'll select the voting method as first responder wins. And this works with dynamic queries as well. You can write select full name of employee 1, employee 2, employee 3 from per all people left. It will have the same effect, but I would choose to enter it here. So first I'll enter the name of Gene Voters. Type it out. And then finally Casey Brown. Yeah, now to introduce parallelization, I'll set each one of them with the order number 1. At this point, let me also tell you that if you fetch multiple people by writing these names inside a query, the default order number that is assigned by the system is always 1. Yeah. So if you, instead of entering the group member statically, if you choose to write a query which fetches more than 1 employees, AME by default considers that you are attempting to implement parallel approval scenario and will assign the order number 1. Here I've set the order number as 1 for each one of them. So this completes my approval group setup. I'll click on apply button. Okay, so now the approval group is defined. We'll go to the rules because most of the conditions we already have in place. Change the condition a little bit to, let's say, 75 quantities, because there might be some other rules which still trigger. Okay, so let's define a rule to invoke parallelization, and we'll call this rule as parallel approval for spindles in 204. Simple. Yeah. And the rule type is going to be list creation, no change in it. Here now you see that there is a new entity called category. We'll leave it to default as approver. Dates remain the same. Item class is at header level. Now we'll add the ordinary conditions which are applicable to this rule. So the first condition was that it should be in the organization 204. And then we add the condition that the item is one of these CM0042 or port 3, for which we already have an existing condition, existing attribute which we will use, that we created yesterday. So let's say greater than 75 quantities. select my second condition. The second condition in itself encompasses that the item must be the CM22042 or 43, so that takes care of all the condition requirements that I have. Now we go next. Now because we chose an approval group, and always parallel approvals can be established through approval group only, I'm selecting the action type as approval group, and let us search and select require approval from parallel approval for spindle. So let's select that. Okay, so this is how the rule looks like. Yeah, now we have the quantity, we have the organization code and items in the conditions, and we have set up the approval groups. So we have chosen the approval group set up for parallel approvals.